flow, 2000, baby. Eden Palms, Monterey Road, I'm a project, baby. Eagles Drive, we was at Oak Grove, barely graduated. We got Tasha, Molly, Bodie, Corbett, they gon' have to hate us.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the New Media Podcast. I'm your host, Ya. We hope you enjoyed the last episode because, as always, today's going to be an even better episode. I got the whole crew with me. Everybody's in the house today, and Week 15 of the NFL season just got wrapped up. So, of course, it's only right that we talk about it. So before we jump into Week 15 of the NFL season, temperature check. How's everybody doing today?
Man, I won my fantasy playoff matchup. Shout out Saquon Barkley. That's my guy. I was damned.
Slow week, man. We got another big week ahead of us, but 1-4 these last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yo, what happened? What happened to those buys though?
The buys, man, it ain't coming through. You know, vacation's not hitting. You know, they're not giving me PTO, so been a tough stretch.
I wish I could say the same for my fantasy teams, man. I didn't make I didn't make the second round in any of my leagues, but I got some things to say about my Minnesota Vikings though. But before we jump into that game, of course, we're going to talk about the very first game that kicked off Week 15 of the NFL season, and that was the 49ers and the Seahawks. The Niners won this one on the road, 21-13. The Niners officially clinched their division with this win.
Biggest kiss off your team right there.
Man, I feel like the tide turned when it was 7-3. We kind of got him off a field, but then what's his face? Quandre Diggs had a wide open interception to get. He could have returned it right back to the end zone. It would have been 7-10 us, and I felt like the momentum switched there. You know, they got their 3 now. We got the ball back. We marching down the field, and then bam, fumble. They take it to the 2-yard line, and after that it was game. You know, offense was slow. We got it, I think, to 14-10, and then after that, we didn't do much on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, you know, Christian McCaffrey just gashed us, and they killed us on the play action with the tight ends. It was just all tight ends were open on the field. Kittle had 2 tugs, 85 yards. The other tight end had a couple grabs. You know, he had some big yardage on the fourth quarter. And I just feel like teams, you know, they opened us up with that run game. And it's always been like that this whole season. And that's the spot that we like, you know, great players in the position right there. And there's nothing that we can do about it for the rest of the season. So it was tough sledding. I feel like, you know, if we got that pick, scored on that drive, I feel like momentum would have switched, and I think we could have won the game. But tough second quarter. Tough way to end the second quarter right there.
This one, I mean, it's kind of like, I remember y'all mentioning this as like the loss that you guys had a while ago might have potentially kickstarted. It could have been similar to the Giants kickstarted an avalanche of losses going forward for the Seahawks. And it's not like you guys are playing like bad teams outside of maybe the Panthers, and then, you know, you guys mix in a couple good teams, decent teams here. And then you come up against the 49ers, a team where they're playing with their backup quarterback in Brock Purdy. But, I mean, he is proven he's no slouch. He's a decent quarterback that's come into a great Kyle Shanahan system. And then you're playing against the craziest defensive line that you can come up, one of the best defenses in the NFL, arguably the best. And they harassed Geno Smith all night. Every time I was watching this, I'm not blaming Geno Smith. I cannot blame Geno Smith. He was under pressure throughout the entire night. I mean, the 49ers did absolutely nothing to help him. They were all over him in this game. I thought maybe a comeback was sparked because it felt like the 49ers offense was a bit stale. I don't know if that's just me, but like after initially, when they went up a bit, it felt like it gotten stale, but they did a good job, I guess, at controlling the game. But I mean, man, this game, it feels like the Seahawks realize that their playoff hopes are slowly by week going down and down. And now it's like they enter must-win territory. And I don't know, maybe it could be what y'all said, where you mentioned, like, if you guys don't make the playoffs, is this season considered a failure? I understand initially expectations were, you know, Seahawks, they're going to tank, they're going to use that pick and everything. But now it's like, well, you know, you guys won some games and it looked like you guys were well on your way to even winning the division. And at this rate, it's like, are you guys going to make the playoffs? So, I mean, it's a tough loss.
Yeah, this still got some finals, man. Still got some finals. That's all I say.
I don't think you guys got any fight left in you, to be honest, especially with the way that game went against the 49ers. I mean, I picked the Niners to win. We all did. We all knew what was going to happen, and what we predicted is what happened. It's plain and simple. We knew the defense was going to harass Geno Smith all night. The defensive line was not going to be able. The offensive line was not going to be able to hold up and, you know, stopping Nick Bosa. And then, of course, you know, Christian McCaffrey, if you had him in fantasy, Big H, you got what you wanted. You got it. You got your 25 points from him in fantasy, and we all knew.
And I advanced. You know what I'm saying?
And you won. See, like George Kittle had a nice day. Brock Purdy did a good for himself. Like everything was clicking for the Niners, and everything was just moving in slow motion. The Niners weren't like going with home run heavy hitter plays. Like they would extend a little bit of their drive, and then at one point in the drive they would make a big play, and it would end up being a touchdown to George Kittle or Christian McCaffrey. It was just the Seattle Seahawks shot themselves in the foot in this game. Of course, Big H mentioned that interception that probably could have turned the tide in the game, but unfortunately he didn't come up with it. And then the Niners, they came in there and did what they were supposed to do, clinch their division. And now they're not thinking about the division at all, or any team in their division. They're thinking about securing that second seed. So the Seattle Seahawks, I won't say too much about them in their future going forward. I've said my piece about them. I already know that if they don't make the playoffs, it's going to be pretty much a failure. So I'm hoping in these next couple of weeks where they have the Kansas City Chiefs, they have the New York Jets, and I think they end up with the Los Angeles Rams, they could somehow come away 2-1 out of this, because last week when we were going into this game, we said that they had to come out 2-2. Right now they've started 0-1. It's not a good start. So then moving into next week, they got a tough matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs. But on Sunday anything is possible. So I won't necessarily count them out there. But overall, good one for the Niners. But they're slowly catching up to my Minnesota Vikings in the standings. So I don't necessarily like that. But we'll go ahead and move on to our Saturday games. I'm sorry. We had a three games on there, and we kicked off with a very, very interesting one in the morning. My Minnesota Vikings make history and come back from a 33-0 deficit in the second half to win against the Colts at home 39-36 in overtime.
I mean, if there's any team that had a liking for the dramatic, it was the Vikings. I mean, all season long they've done this. Feels like in every game where it's a comeback, and where they're down something, and then they come right back in. And so there's a lot of resilience shown, I believe, in this game. I mean, you have KJ Osborne who absolutely stepped up. Like, for the Colts to go up that much, right? I think teams that go up by 30 since 1930, it's one win, 1,500 losses, 1,548 losses, matter of fact, and one draw. So, I mean, history was not on the Viking side in this one, but they kept chipping away. I don't know if the Colts front office made a call and be like, it's time to call it quits. But, the Vikings kept chipping away. KJ Osborne had a big game. CJ Ham had a touchdown. And then Dalvin Cook had that big screen pass and take to the house. And it just felt like momentum swung. The doors blew right open. And anybody else watching that game was just like in shock. It felt like the Colts had multiple opportunities to at least try to ice the game. Don't let the Vikings back into it. But I feel like every time I watch these guys, punt, 3 and out, simple as that. And of course, what other quarterback would have been on a major comeback like that other than the one that suffered a huge comeback in the Super Bowl, Matt Ryan. So, I mean, for the Vikings to come back in this game was just huge. But, I mean, there goes that questions about defense again. You let one of the sorriest teams in the NFL, to me offensively, the Colts, do that to you. I mean, that's not something to cool. Like, you guys had a great comeback and all, but like, this is the Colts, man. Like, where was this against the Cowboys when the Cowboys were kicking you in the chest? Where was this comeback? Like, they didn't allow that. Good teams are not allowing this. I don't know if the Colts front office made a call, but it's a good morale win for the Vikings and all. But there's bad signs mixed into this, so I mean, it is what it is.
Man, watching this game first half at 33-0, and I'm sitting here like, I started Kirk Cousins in a fantasy playoff game. He down 33-0, like 100 yards going into halftime. And I was just like, what the hell? I'm glad they turned up second half, but like Abby said, man, where was this against the Cowboys? Like against the Colts, whatever, beautiful comeback. But when it's against elite teams like the Eagles or the Cowboys or the Niners, they ain't letting that happen, There's not going to be 39 points scored in the second half. There's not going to be a comeback like that. It's going to be a shutout, but Kirk Cousins turned up second half. Dalvin Cook turned up second half. And KJ Osborne, came out of nowhere and had a phenomenal day with 10 catches, 157 yards, two tugs or one touchdown?
One touchdown.
One touchdown. And JJ is going to be JJ, 120 yards and a touchdown. But the whole team, I feel like, they went into that locker room, came out motivated, and they're like, we gotta hold this record what we have here. We're sitting at 10-3, potentially could be 11-3, and they made a comeback. So great win for the Vikings, bro. And any team that comes back from this much points is a fantastic win. So I'm not going to take much from them, but when playoff time happens and if they do get in this type of deficit, don't expect them to come back.
I mean, I don't see us being ever down 33-0 going into any playoff game or any second half of a playoff game. But this game was a pure example of a tale of two halves. The Indianapolis Colts, they had a lot of things going their way in the first half, and everything that could have gone right for them went right, and everything that could have gone wrong for us went wrong. Their first drive, they got 3 points out of it. Our first drive, it ends up being a block punt going back for 6 for the Colts. So in about 5 minutes into the game, we're already down 10-0. And then I just feel like in the first half, we really, really struggled in, moving the chains. We struggled, extending drives and we couldn't get any first downs. I think we went for it on 4th down in the first half, and with Dalvin Cook, and we got stuffed, and we put the Colts in prime position to score and get more points. And then everything was just pretty much going downhill for us. And like I said, everything was going right for the Colts. So, the Colts did everything they possibly could to, win that game. They were up 33-0 in the first half. And I was sitting there like, it's going to be bad. I'm thinking, what everybody's going to say on Monday about the Minnesota Vikings and them being pretenders and stuff like that, and them being frauds. It wasn't going to end well for us, but, second half, we were able to rally, and that's the team we are. It all started on the defensive side of the ball. We stopped playing our soft coverage zone against the Colts. It just in general, we stopped playing that soft coverage where teams can just pick us apart in the middle of the field and find the soft spot in the zone. We stopped playing that, and we started to become more aggressive. When we're an aggressive defense, we cause a lot of problems on that. We can cause a lot of problems on that side of the ball. We got home to Matt Ryan a couple of times. Our DB stopped their wide receivers a couple of yards short of the first down marker. So once we started becoming more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball, things started to go right for us. And of course, our offense turned up. Patrick Peterson told Kirk Cousins and Kevin O'Connell, all we need is 5 touchdowns. We're right back in the game, So overall, offensively, in the second half, we were flawless. Kirk Cousins, man, outside, I don't even care about those 2 interceptions he threw. It was to that sorry ass receiver, Jalen Reagor. He will not be a Minnesota Viking next year. I can guarantee you that. On the second interception, he stops running his route where Kirk Cousins pretty much threw him open, and allowed the Indianapolis Colt player to get the interception there on a crucial drive that could have gotten us some points there. And then in the first half, he threw a pick 6 because Jalen Reagor stopped on his route. He stopped, and then he ran a little bit again, and then Kirk Cousins thought he was just going to stop and catch the ball, and that's why that led to a pick 6. But like I said in our last couple of episodes, for the last couple of weeks for the Vikings, we needed to get Dalvin Cook involved early, and that's exactly what we did. We got the running game involved. Although after his big 40-yard run in the first half, he did fumble, but in the second half, he was able to get a lot of catches and get a lot of yards on the ground. I believe he finished with 95 yards rushing, 95 yards receiving, and a receiving touchdown. And Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, and Adam Thielen, they all made big plays when they needed to. Overall, this is a very, very great win for my Minnesota Vikings. I feel like if our defense plays aggressive like this for the rest of the season, we're gonna be all right in the playoffs. I have no doubt in my mind. And with that being said, we sit here as the 2022 NFC North champions. I predicted this back in August, and I had no doubt that we were gonna clinch this division title and take it away from Green Bay. So overall, this is a good one for us. But one thing I am scared about is the come down from the high, because right now we are all the way at the ceiling, and we know we're playing a very, very sneaky team in the New York Giants who just got a win this week for this upcoming week. And if we don't have our A game that day, they can get a win from on us, and we can lose that number 2 seed. I know all Niner fans were rooting against us on Saturday when the Colts were kicking our ass, but we can't afford any losses moving forward. So hopefully we finish out the season 3-0. But a 2-1 at worst. But overall, good win for my Minnesota Vikings. But we'll move on to the next game. The Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. He gets his first win as a Cleveland Brown against the Baltimore Ravens, 13-3.
The Browns, I mean, of course, I didn't expect anything to have like a high score in this game. I expected it to be more of a defensive game, but the Ravens had like multiple like mistakes in this game. They had, I believe, 2 turnovers on downs. They had a missed field goal. They had a red zone interception. Just an overall bad game from the Ravens side. Tyler threw a red zone pick. I mean, they struggled offensively, only putting up 3 points. J.K. Dobbins just had a monster game himself, though. It's good to see him healthy and everything. We know how much of a talented running back he is, but outside of that, I mean, of course, it's the story of the Ravens offense all season, and it's going to be that way. And this this loss kind of hurts for them, of course, because the Bengals are right there, and I believe they have overtaken them, if I'm correct, right? The
Yeah.
Bengals have overtaken them as the number 1 seed in that division, and they're not going to let that go. The Bengals are red hot. So on the other end, I mean, Deshaun Watson had a decent game. I feel like he was much better than what he's shown the last 2 weeks. He protected the ball well. He had a decent game, and then of course Nick Chubb on the ground did what he does. So I mean, it's a good win for the Browns, who are just looking to get Deshaun Watson primed and ready for next year. So
Yeah, man. Ravens offense, Huntley just did not look very good. 17 for 30, 130 yards and an interception. Like what can we expect from the pass game with Devin Duvernay, Demarcus Robinson, Justice Hill, like Josh? These guys are NPCs. Like the only guy is Mark Andrews, and they're tripling him the whole time. So these guys can't get off the line. They can't make moves. They can't catch the ball. Pass game's not going to look well. So Ravens offense, we know the situation. I'm happy J.K. Dobbins is back. I got him in one of my fantasy leagues. He's been cooking up. Hopefully keeps it up. And on the Brown side, man, they had an okay game. Deshaun Watson had an okay game, 160 yards and a touchdown. I feel like he was more conservative this game, but they relied on the defense mostly like these past 2 weeks, and Nick Chubb had another good game. So, like Abdi said, Browns just try to get Deshaun Watson back into rhythm, get him used to passing the ball more, get him more comfortable in the pocket, and just grind out W's, and that's what they've been able to do. So, hopefully Lamar's back this week, and they're sitting at the 5th spot right now, I believe. I'm not too sure, 5th or 6th. I don't know which one it is, but yeah,
Fifth.
Bengals have overtaken them. Bengals have overtaken them now, so they don't got that home field advantage, but they'll see the Bengals at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. After that Minnesota Vikings Colts game, I did not watch this game. I couldn't get myself to watch this game simply because of what just happened in the game before. But I did watch some highlights. Abdi hit it around the head. The Ravens, I'm sorry, had a lot of opportunities that they left on the table. Or Justin Tucker, it's rare when he misses kicks, but all of a sudden, he couldn't get a field goal to go in this game, and pretty much the Ravens gifted the Cleveland Browns a win here. Nick Chubb was successful on the ground. Deshaun Watson, still trying to get the rust off, but he was fortunate enough to get his first win, and he was fortunate enough for it to be a home game. The Cleveland Browns, they're not going to be competing for a playoff spot. They're just trying to get like we all mentioned, Deshaun Watson back in rhythm, and the Ravens, they are looking to get Lamar Jackson back this week against the Atlanta Falcons at home. That's going to be very, very big for them moving forward because like Big H and Abdi mentioned, the divisional race is starting to get a little closer, and with the Cincinnati Bengals overtaking them, it puts more pressure on the Ravens to keep their foot on the gas. And because last year they started off so hot, and then Lamar Jackson went down, and they ended up missing the playoffs after losing, I think, like 6 or 7 games straight in a row, and they don't want to go through that this year. So overall, good one for the Cleveland Browns. The Baltimore Ravens need to tighten up and hopefully get their guy back under center. But we'll go ahead and move on to the last game on our Saturday slate. The Buffalo Bills went on a walk-off field goal by Tyler Bass at home against the Miami Dolphins, 32-29.
So this game, I'm not going to be particularly harsh on Tua for this game. Coming into this, we spoke about how the weather was going to affect him mightily, and he's going to struggle real bad. But I felt like Tua had a good enough game for them to win, and especially on the ground, they did a great job. I mean, Raheem Mostert had a monster game. Last time when he played, I think they had 11 yards, and then this time he had 136. And in the first half, the Buffalo could not get their hands on him. I don't know if that's whether because of snow or he's just running hard, but they could not touch this guy. And Tua kept it competitive. And in the first half, it felt like his wide receivers were dropping some easy passes. And if I've seen a team do a better job than the Buffalo Bills did on Tyreek Hill, I haven't. Like, they did a great job of just limiting big plays on this game. It felt like they're just keeping him to short areas. They did not allow big plays in this game. Tre'Davious White did an excellent job. And especially Jalen Waddle 8, but Tua was just really just middle of the field, just trying to pick his spots. But of course, in the second half, late, and Josh Allen, it feels like it's at this point starting to get almost inevitable when he starts to get for a fourth quarter drive to put a game away. Like, he just marched down the field, just kept picking his spots, kept going down. And then of course Taylor Bass put it away. So I mean, it's good on the Dolphins side that they prove like even in this condition we can keep up with the Buffalo Bills. But again, in this division, you don't want to let anything slip up. But we'll get to the Patriots, one of their division opponents. But
To the
go win for the
Patriots.
Bills.
Man, I feel like this was a great win for the Bills. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like offensively they haven't, been moving the ball like they did today. Not today, but the other day against Miami. Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns. He had like 80 yards rushing. He spread the wealth to the receivers, man. There's some guys I didn't even know that caught the ball. Quentin Norris, Naeem Hines, James Cook, all receiving touchdowns. Cole Beasley had an appearance. Isaiah McKenzie had an appearance. Gabe Davis, Diggs, and Knox, they played phenomenally well. But on the offensive side of the ball, Josh Allen showed what type of quarterback he is, an MVP candidate type quarterback, and he hooped. But for the Dolphins, I didn't think Tua played a bad game. 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mostert, phenomenal game, 136 yards, and they're up 29-21, late fourth quarter, like mid fourth quarter. Felt like they were playing well, and last 2 drives they really couldn't get much. They had a fumble on Josh Allen. They got a field goal, and then Allen 10 points in a row, and that's how you just silence the game. So good one for the Bills and Miami, man, sitting at 8-6. It's a lot of good competitors right next to them, right there, fighting for a playoff spot. So this was a big loss for them. I feel like they could have pulled it out on the offensive side of the ball. I did mention Tyreek not, taking off the top. His longest catch was 20 yards. So Bills defense, they didn't want him to go over the top. They kept him underneath. So that was good by them, and that's about it. So good one for the Bills.
Yeah, I think the people who predict the weather pump faked us in this one. We thought it was going to be a blizzard, and that's how it was looking like on social media when they were showing the pregame and the snow being all out on the field. But when the game started, the grass was green, and there was a snowball fight going on in the back of the end zone against the Miami Dolphins players. But aside from that, I do believe the Miami Dolphins did show a little bit of fight in this game. They showed a little bit of heart. I can't put the blame on the offense in this one. The defense just didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Tua did pretty much enough to win this game against the Buffalo Bills, but the defense continues to be a problem this year. Of course they've had their ups and downs, but as of late it's been pretty much downhill for them. So they need to pretty much tighten up and fix up on that side of the ball, because the offense can only carry you so much. At the end of the day, you're gonna have to get stops when come playoff time, or down the stretch in the month of December. You're gonna need your defense to step up, and I believe the defense failed Tua and the offense in this one. But to speak on the Buffalo Bills, right now they're on a 5-game win streak ever since that loss to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, this is who the Buffalo Bills are. They got the number 1 seed in the AFC, and then, like I've said in multiple previous episodes, they're not looking to slow down anytime soon. They know what's at stake. They know the team that's behind them. They know that they need an AFC Championship game in Buffalo, and teams have to go to them come January. And Josh Allen, he's been pretty much amazing these past 5 weeks, and he was nothing short of amazing against the Miami Dolphins, throwing for 4 touchdowns and rushing for a whole lot. So overall, this is a very, very good one for the Buffalo Bills. If I'm the Miami Dolphins, I don't necessarily hang your head down. There's still some football left to be played, but being on the outside looking in now, I believe, they hold the last spot in the AFC. Well, thanks to the Patriots, but the race is still very, very close. So they need to get a few more wins, maybe finish with 10 wins, sitting at 10-6, or going into next week, or 10-7 going into the playoffs. I think that should be enough for them to clinch. So overall, good one for Buffalo. But that wraps up our Saturday slate of games. We'll go ahead and move on to Sunday, and that kicks off with the Philadelphia Eagles getting away in a very, very close game, I would say, against the Chicago Bears, 25-20.
This one was a bit interesting because you did mention how Justin Fields was going to kind of hurt them on the ground, and he did. He had, I think, 95 yards on the ground. Of course, Justin Fields in the air, it's tough with the offensive line situation and the lack of weapons. So, of course, he's not going to throw for a ton of yards. But, I mean, the Bears defense kept them, relatively in the game. They did a great job, I feel like, early on in the air against Jalen Hurts at 2 picks. But, of course, the Eagles did a great job of just, pushing on. A sign of a great team is, ironically, I'm saying this because I hate the Vikings, but a sign of a good team is a team that stays resilient. A couple turnovers don't bother them, and the Eagles did a great job of just setting the ship. It kept going. And Jalen Hurts, I believe, he has 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, feels like every week this guy gets 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns. He's close to tying Cam Newton's record, or in fact, even breaking it. So, and AJ Brown had an absolute monster game, 180 yards. And so, you know, the Eagles, they're gonna get some scares here and there. They're the team to beat in the NFC, but I mean, they did an excellent job of just trying to close out this game, and they put the pressure on the Bears. But I mean, the Bears had an opportunity to steal this game as well. So you can't let a team like this do this to you, especially without their weapons and without an offensive line. But I mean, good win.
Yeah, it's a good one for them. You know, I'm sitting at 13-1. I believe they're gonna clinch that 1 seed, regardless if Jalen Hurts doesn't play this week or not. But man, I feel like, you know, after those, you know, 2 turnovers in the first half by Jalen Hurts, they kind of, you know, weathered the game, controlled it. They were up 10-6 heading into half, got another touchdown, then had a fumble. So you know, it's just the turnover issues. You know, 3 turnovers, but Jalen Hurts, man, 3 touchdowns on the ground, man. This guy's he just eating. Every time he touches the ball in the end zone, he's just eating. It's easy for him to score, but man, all around good game for AJ Brown. They play phenomenally. We got to speak about Devontae Smith too as well. 5 catches, 126 yards. He cooked up. And then on the Bears side of the ball, I mean, only Justin Fields has some more help on the receiver end. You know, like other than that, he had a phenomenal run game. They had like 170 yards rushing. Montgomery had a good run game. But Eagles, you know, weathered the storm, sitting at 13-1. Good one for them.
Yeah, this is a very, very, very good win for the Philadelphia Eagles because of how bad Jalen Hurts was playing to start this game. For them to just keep, you know, staying in there and fighting. But like I said, like Abdi said, you know, I knew that coming into this game, Justin Fields is going to give this defense a different look. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, they kind of struggled to stop a guy like Justin Fields on the ground. There was a play where he could have gotten sacked where, you know, it's Justin Fields being Justin Fields. He's going to break out of that, and he runs for an additional 40 yards. The Eagles, you know, there's not much we can say about this team. This team is well rounded. They're a good team. They're a great team all around. You know, on all 3 levels. You know, and this is without their main guy, Dallas Goedert, who just got activated off of IR today. But won't speak too much about this game. The Bears, you know, they did all they could. But it is concerning moving forward with Jalen Hurts' shoulder injury that, you know, that just came out today, and what they're going to do with him moving forward, especially with the way with who they have on the schedule this upcoming week against the Dallas Cowboys, and then for the rest of the season going into the playoffs, because we know they're going to make it. Do you start a guy like Gardner Minshew and just let Jalen Hurts rest regardless of what, you know, them playing the Cowboys this week, and then for the rest of the season, or do you just throw him into the fire and kind of take it week to week? So you don't necessarily want to risk. I wouldn't risk that, simply because, you know, Jalen Hurts is your starting quarterback, and if I feel like if he goes down, the ship is going down with him, because Gardner Minshew can really only do so much. He hasn't played a lick of football this entire season. So
Hey, hold on. I think Minshew's a hooper though. I feel like he plug and play.
I think Gardner Minshew is good. I'm not trying to like disrespect him in any way, but like it's different when you go from a guy like Jalen Hurts, who's dual threat, to Gardner Minshew, you know. I mean, Gardner Minshew is not going to give you 700 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns on the season, but he does give the team a different look, and he has his weapons that he's familiar with. I know he was familiar with Dallas Goedert when he was there, I think last year, the year before. And then of course AJ Brown, Devontae Smith will still be, they'll still be, relevant. So, it might not be a big downgrade at all after, but who knows? But the injury is a bit concerning, because I've read reports on Twitter, according to Twitter doctors, that it's a torn something. He tore his shoulder, something's wrong with that. It is pretty bad, or a broken collarbone. I'm sorry. So, whatever it is, hopefully it's nothing too serious, because the Eagles, they're having a great season, and we're trying to see an interesting playoffs with them being healthy. But overall, this is a good win for them, 13-1. And
he can sit out against the Cowboys this week. I very much need that.
Yeah, he can go ahead and sit out. It would be no biggie. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The New Orleans Saints beat the Atlanta Falcons 21-18.
I'm very curious. Who did I pick in this game? Like, I want to know.
I'm pretty sure we picked the Saints. We didn't trust Desmond Ritter.
Nah, Abdi picked the Falcons.
Man, what an L.
That's tough, man. I mean, Desmond Ritter, 97 yards, man. I mean, you guys spoke about this coming into this game. Like, Desmond Ritter, like first time as a start, like it's gonna be tough for him to come in and start cooking right away. I mean, on the ground, the running back Tyler Algier had 139 yards on 17 carries and a touchdown. So and even Cordell Patterson did great on the ground. And I mean, they did their job on the ground, but like when you're a quarterback in this NFL, you have to throw it, and it wasn't enough in the air. I mean, 97 yards is just like it isn't like the worst thing ever for a rookie in his first game, but it's not something that'll get you the win. On the other hand, you had Andy Dalton throw for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Taysom Hill. I hate playing this guy in fantasy because you're able to put him at tight end. It's so goddamn annoying. But like for him to be able to come in and then get 80 yards and a touchdown, and Alvin Kamara, you guys spoke about this earlier when we were having our preview of this episode. There's no question that he has to get involved for this team to be able to win. And I just want to know, what is the Saints record?
The
Just out of
Saints record right
curiosity.
now is 5-9,
Oh, Tampa Bay's what, 6 and what?
6-8.
So
Yeah,
there's
it's
still a tight
nasty.
race in the division.
Yeah, it's a very very tight race.
So I mean, it is a good win for the Saints. I mean, this division is so sorry, man. And there's a couple games of this season where it could have gone the other way for the Saints, and they potentially could have been top of this division. But it is a good win for them.
Yeah, good one for the Saints, man. Wouldn't necessarily call it a good win, but in their case, in that division, it was a good win. But the way they played against the Falcons, to me, it was, the pass game's not working, and you still give up 240 rush yards. Like, they just got gashed. They were getting ran over every single play. So, if Ritter made a couple more better passes, if he had a couple more targets on the field, who would have known what happened? What would happen? But yeah, this game was ugly to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. This game was pretty nasty. All I see was just field goals, field goals, field goals, field goals. It was just disgusting to me. But Alvin Kamara, man, I hope he leaves the Saints. I'm not gonna lie. I really do hope he leaves the Saints, man. I feel like he's too talented to stay on a team that doesn't unlock his true potential. But we'll see what happens. Sitting at 5-9 in a dirty division like that, I hope they do not make the playoffs. Peyton Manning said the other day, he was like, if I could pay Goodell to cancel out that division and just let 4 teams from the NFC East make it, it would have been perfect. But you can't do that.
Yeah, this division is the sorriest division in football, man. It's extremely bad. I can't remember a division this bad in quite some time. I mean, the NFC East it's been bad for a lot of years, but I don't think it's ever been this bad. But to speak on this game, I mean, I picked the Saints simply because I didn't the Saints defense is very very respectable still, and I just didn't believe Desmond Ritter in his first career start was going to be able to find a way to win in New Orleans. Andy Dalton did a good job at finding his tight end Juwan Johnson for a couple of touchdowns, and Alvin Kamara did his thing a little bit. Chris Olave, I feel like he was a little bit quiet in this game. He's been pretty much quiet as of late, but hopefully he's able to turn it around. I heard that he is dealing with the hamstring injury, but not really much to say about this game. It's a good one for the Saints, for them to get a win in a very, very tight divisional race where they're only one game behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, each week is very, very important as we come down to the final stretch, last 3 games. So the Buccaneers are 6-8 and every other team below them is 5-9. So each and every week is important. And this is a very, very good one for the Saints. I'll call it like that. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Detroit Lions beat the New York Jets on the road 20-17.
This one, like, for the most part, coming to this game, we had this idea that Jared Goff was gonna have like a huge turnover game. Like this was gonna be the game where, like it all falls apart for Jared Goff. But he did a good enough job to protect the ball against his team, especially considering the fact that how talented they are defensively. And I mean, they were stifled for most of this game. I believe it was 17-13 with like 2 minutes left, and then all of a sudden Jared Goff starts marching down. And then he hits Brock White for a 51-yard touchdown, and it seals the game for them. And so it's a good win for the Lions, especially against a team like this, even though like we were expecting Jared Goff to have a really bad game, but he did a good enough job to save them on that side. And on the other hand, you had Zach Wilson, and I know it'll show he had two touchdowns and 300 yards, but I mean, this guy was missing easy throws, like easy throws against a terrible secondary, and you had guys like Garrett Wilson just like snapping, doing his best Jerry Judy impression. I mean, this guy was just heated. I feel like Zach Wilson was leaving a lot of food on the table, and so I mean, they just understand that they need wins, especially in this tight division that they're in. But a good overall win for the Lions, who are trying to steal a playoff spot from a lot of teams. So a good win for them.
Yeah, great one for the Lions, and like we expected, Jared Goff to, have some turnovers here and there this game, but I feel like he really played. He secured the ball. He didn't turn it over. He played his best game manager game this season, probably. Like, he didn't get the game-winning touchdown to the last drive, and that was the only touchdown from the offense. Everything else came from field goals and a punt return for a touchdown. But it was a very slow game, man, till the end of the game. 17-13. Goff marches down, gets a 50-yard touchdown pass, and that was it. Zach Wilson, like Abby said, he had 335 yards, but yeah, 16, 15 of them passes were some horrible throws that they, could have been catchable throws, catches. And he didn't, produce. But I'm hearing, I don't know did they say Mike White's going to be back this week?
Mike White will not be able to go on Thursday against the Jacksonville
I
Jaguars.
know I think something, yeah. I feel like against the Jags is going to be another tough game for them, but we'll see what happens. And I just don't think they involved the run game like they've been doing the last couple of weeks. They didn't really involve it. I think it was 50 yards passing, 50 yards running, 2.3 yards per carry, and it's pretty nasty for them on that side of the ball. So, man, they're fine. Big win for the Detroit right now. They might sneak into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you guys hit it right on the head, man. This is a very, very great win for the Detroit Lions, man. I was over here thinking, we were tuning into a Jared Goff disaster class performance on Sunday against this New York Jets defense, but the Jets defense did all it could. And then, of course, Jared Goff, he was able to get that 50-yard touchdown on fourth. It was on that touchdown pass was that game-winning touchdown pass was on a fourth down too. So I got to give him credit there. The Jets didn't look too bad though with Zach Wilson. Of course, every couple of throws, there'd be a bad throw here and there, but I feel like overall he made some crazy throws and some nice throws, to put the team in scoring position, and but it just wasn't enough in this game against the Lions. So. They got a very, very tough game coming up against the red hot Jacksonville Jaguars on a very, very short week. So the season for their season, they need to figure out whether or not they're going to make the playoffs or not, because their last three games, Jacksonville, Seattle, and Miami, those two games are on the road. So they might be on the verge of missing the playoffs after that red hot start. With how close the AFC wild card race is, but overall, this is a very, very good win for the Detroit Lions. Man, these guys have turned their season around, and they're starting to cook something up over there. They're on a 3-game win streak right now, and they're 1 game back or a half game back from the 7th seed in the NFC. So Dan Campbell, he will be their head coach moving forward. I have no doubt about that. I had a little bit of doubt a couple weeks ago, but not anymore. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Pittsburgh Steelers win on the road against the Carolina Panthers 24-16.
I feel like in this game, Mr. Trubisky is kind of hilarious. I think he was talking about like, I know what I'm capable of, and he was pretty proud of himself in this game, even though it was pretty much a game manager. But he did sustain 3 touchdown drives, and I think he ran for 1. And on the ground, I mean, these guys were just like dominant. I think 156 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. And it just felt like this was a much needed win in the sense that maybe the Steelers are starting to form their identity offensively, and their defense just like it held out the Panthers. I think they had their 5th lowest rushing yardage in history. I think 21 yards on 16 carries or something like that. So they did an excellent job stifling that run defense, especially considering the fact that the run offense for the Panthers were great the last couple of weeks. And so the Steelers did a good job on that end. And so, and of course, defensively, they're always going to be them. So, I mean, it is a good win, but like we mentioned, like, I don't know what the Steelers' plan is. I guess they're just playing to play at this point. I mean, there's not much left for this team. They're obviously not going to make the playoffs. So I'm assuming that I don't even know what to assume of this team. Like, are they attempting to tank? Are they attempting to what is their plan? So, I mean, good win for them though.
Yeah, good one for the Steelers, man. Trubisky 7 for 22, 180 yards, 0 touchdowns passing. Oh no, and then 1 touchdown running, but they killed it on the run game, man. 156 yards. Deontay Johnson, 10 of those catches, 10 out of 17 catches, man. That's pretty crazy. So, good one for the Steelers. Panthers, I mean, the defense got, Steelers defense shut that run game down. 16 carries, 21 yards. Other than that, they forced Sam Darnold to throw the ball. He had a touchdown, but other than that, there wasn't much coming for it. So, Steelers, man, sitting at 6-8, like Abby said, what are they fighting for? They're not going to get a high draft pick, but they're not going to make the playoffs. So at this point, they're just trying to get wins and try to be mid of the pack team. So whenever Kenny Pickett comes back, we'll see what happens. And good one for them.
Yeah, not much to say about this game. I'll be honest. But it was very, very good to see Deontay Johnson go back to his old self where he got 10 catches and 98 yards. It's been a while since we've seen Deontay Johnson do that. But the Mitch Trubisky era is pretty much done. I think Kenny Pickett is going to be out of the concussion protocol for this week, and I think Mike Tomlin already named him the starter moving forward. But the Carolina Panthers, they couldn't really get anything going. They did their best in this one, but I guess the Steelers are. You guys are questioning what are they playing for at this point. I think they're just trying to protect Mike Tomlin's above 500 streak. So with the 3 games left to go, they could potentially be 9-8, or they're going to protect it or they're not going to protect it. But I guess we're just going to.
Possible?
No, I don't think it's possible at all. They're not going to do it. But I mean, I guess that's what they're playing so hard for, right? What else? But
Yeah.
So overall, good one for them. But let's go ahead and move on to a more interesting matchup. I know we have a lot to say about this one. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm going to go ahead and say they upset the Dallas Cowboys 40-34 in overtime after being down 17 in the second half.
Man, Trevor Lawrence, we've said like this guy, like his highs are high and sometimes his lows are Like this isn't Trevor Lawrence. This isn't who he's supposed to be. But man, oh man, what a comeback for 318 yards and 4 touchdowns. Travis Etienne to have 100 rushing yards. Zay Jones to have 109 yards and 3 touchdowns. A lot of people that I know mentioned that they left him on his bench, and that was the worst mistake that they could have done because, like, an absolute monster of a game from the Jaguars offensively in that second half. And, we mentioned this about Dak, man. Those turnovers, it feels like when he turns the ball over, it's the worst ones because teams capitalize on the Cowboys for them to go up big and to have CeeDee Lamb have 126 yards and Dak to have 256 and 3 touchdowns, but also those 2 turnovers. It's like, what's going on? And the Jaguars just were piling it on them. It felt like if they were the first one to touch the ball in overtime, they were going to score a touchdown, and nobody was going to stop them, man. And I'm so happy for Trevor Lawrence, man, because I believe he's 1 game back of the Titans, if I'm correct. And so, I mean, like coming into the season, I did have them finishing second, man. And so at this rate, they might be potentially finishing first if they beat the Jets this Thursday. So I am rooting for the Jaguars. I'm happy for Trevor Lawrence, man.
Man, 27-10. Sitting at 27-10. And this guy, Trevor Lawrence, was like, you know what? F it. I'm just going to play like Trevor Lawrence. 3 straight touchdowns, 3 straight to take the lead. And then, Cowboys came back, got a touchdown, and then he turned the ball over like 2 minutes and like 30 seconds left with a fumble. He ran, he got popped out by Marco Parsons from the back. And at that point, I was like, man, it's game over. He fought hard, but he came back. He got the ball back. He drove down the field, made some beautiful passes down the field to end that fourth quarter, got him in field goal range and tied it up. And then defense, man, what can I say? In the end of the game, they popped up when it mattered. Dak threw a ball, hit off the receiver's arms. Guy was in the right spot, right time, and he got that pick 6 to end it. And it was a perfect way for them to win, just like that. And I got some questions about Dak sometimes, man. Like, it's just, the offense, the offense mainly runs through that run game. And once he gets into the rhythm, letting him pass the ball more times than he needs to be, he starts to panic. And some of his interceptions, like the first one, was just horrendous. He just throwing it to space where nobody's there, and he's going to get picked off. I don't blame him for the second one, but you gotta just be better in the game. You're getting paid top money to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Trevor Lawrence is over here stomping you out like that, coming back 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. So, what a game by T. Lawrence, man. And right now, looking at the record, man, they got a chance to make it to playoffs. I'm all in, man, baby. I've been hyped about the Jags all year long. Said it in the preseason, talked about them a lot. I'm pretty happy. So, let's see what they talk about. Let's see what they bring this Thursday against the Jets.
Yeah, the Jaguars are one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Trevor Lawrence is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league since week 9. This is a very, very great win for them. I predicted this upset in our preview episode last week. I just had a weird feeling that, the Dallas Cowboys defense was in for a rude awakening, and it was looking bad throughout the first 3 quarters of the game. But Trevor Lawrence, in that he was able to find the weak link in that defense, and I believe that DB that got cooked was his name is Kelvin Joseph. He was able to connect with Zay Jones on a couple of those touchdowns, and we know how deadly Trevor Lawrence and this offense can be when they're red hot. We saw a glimpse of it against Kansas City, and it's pretty much looked like that these last couple of weeks. And the Dallas Cowboys, man, I told you guys last week that people coming into this week, we're gonna have some question marks about them and their defense. I know they're going into a very, very big game this upcoming week against the Philadelphia Eagles, but this defense is not as good as we think it is. Yes, they did make some key stops. Yes, they got a fumble on Trevor Lawrence, and of course the offense failed by Dak throwing a pick six, which wasn't his fault. But on the offensive side of the ball, the Dallas Cowboys offense could have done a better job at extending drives and icing the game and not giving the ball back to red hot Trevor Lawrence. When you see that your defense is doing its job, you have to continue to extend drives and ice the game and not put the other team in good position to even have a chance at coming back. And the offense let the Jacksonville Jaguars come back in this one, and Trevor Lawrence took advantage of the opportunity that was in front of him. So overall, this is a very, very good win for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm sorry, and the Tennessee Titans, man, they got we're gonna get to them in a little bit, but what I thought was a division that was locked up in their hands. It's looking a little loose right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars might be able to sneak away with it and clinch a playoff spot for the first time in a while since Blake Bortles, I believe. So overall, it's a nice and interesting story, and it's a good win for them. So I'm looking forward to seeing how their rest of the season plays out, starting with their Thursday matchup against the Jets. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Kansas City Chiefs surprisingly win in overtime against the Houston Texans, 30-24.
This game was a bit of an odd one. Like when you look at the Kansas City box score, right? When you see 336 yards and 2 touchdowns and 86 rushing yards for Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Kelce 105 yards, and Jerick McKinnon, he was an absolute monster both on the ground and in the air. You would think, okay, there's no way the Chiefs were close, but for the most part of this game, they struggled both defensively and offensively. I mean, Davis Mills had 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, and this is without their top running back, Damian Pierce. And it just gave me shades of the same game against the Broncos where the Chiefs were up big, and then they were letting the Broncos back into this game. It just gave me the same type of vibes where they felt like they were vulnerable. But of course, Mahomes put the game away in overtime, and for these guys to go 7 straight, I think this is their 7th year in a row as AFC West champions, just speaks volume to how good this pairing is of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, these guys are absolute monsters, especially Andy Reid, dating back to Alex Smith days. So, I mean, I want to say it is a good win for the Chiefs, but again, you cannot allow a team which is weird because the Texans kind of did this against the Cowboys. I don't know what's going on. These guys decided they're gonna finally play some football or something. I don't get what's going on, but they decided that they're gonna show up today, and they played great for the most part. But Patrick Mahomes, he's gonna put games away. So I mean, good one for the Chiefs.
Yeah, good one for the Chiefs, man. I was watching this game. It just they get the ball, it looks slow for them. The Texans defenders, every time one of those receivers caught the ball, Juju touched the ball, he was getting lit up. McKinnon touched it, he was getting lit up. Everybody on that field, Sky Moore, he would get lit up. They were just getting hit. And I felt like the whole game was slow for them. They really need to take advantage of this Texans team. We've seen the Texans last week against the Cowboys. It was the same case. They're coming out with this red offense where they're switching quarterbacks with Mills and Driscoll, using Driscoll as a running quarterback, using Mills as a running quarterback, and then switching it up with the pass game. But I just feel like Kansas City can be getting to these games with these type of teams, like the Broncos and this team right here. They're these are the weeks that they're supposed to put points on the board, so get comfortable, getting a rhythm for the playoffs, and get right. But good one for them. They came out, they did what they had to do. Jerick McKinnon, big game for him, especially with the game when he touchdown ran in overtime. And I just feel like, the offense, it's clicking, but I expected more from them. I feel like this first half, they started off too slow.
Yes, I mean, am I surprised that the Chiefs won? No, we all knew they were going to win this game. I am surprised with how the game went. This game really could have swung in Patrick Mahomes' MVP case's favor. You know, his case could have gotten a lot stronger with the more convincing win, I believe, especially with the way Jalen Hurts performed against the Chicago Bears with those 2 interceptions. You know, still rushing for 3 touchdowns, but not throwing for one. But to get back to this game, I mean, I said it since they lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Kansas City Chiefs will not lose another game this for the rest of the season. This is pretty much who they are. They're gonna beat up on the teams that are bad. You know, sometimes it might be close and sometimes it might be a blowout, but when they play a very very bad team, you just don't know what to expect. But just know you should always expect to win. But how are you gonna get that win? You just never know. But the Texans, they've been turning up these last couple of weeks, you know, making games competitive, you know, fighting against these good teams and, you know, still showing a little bit of heart. And, you know, they did that against the Kansas City Chiefs, but, you know, just wasn't enough against Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes had himself one hell of a day, I got to say, you know, throwing it for completing 87.8% of his passes, 336 yards and 2 touchdowns. You know, that's very, 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 very good. So, got to give him credit there. But, you know, we're just going to sit here and call it a good win for the Chiefs. And then moving on to next week. But I know we're moving on. We're moving on to a game that I know nobody watched. The Denver Broncos beat the Arizona Cardinals 24-15. The 2 starting quarterbacks in this game, well, the 2 quarterbacks that finished off this game for the Denver Broncos, Brian Ripien, and the Arizona Cardinals, Trace McSorley.
I'll be completely honest. Like, forget watching this game. I did not even watch the highlights of this game. I'm only aware of the score, and I'm only aware that I think the Cardinals quarterback threw for like 95 yards. That's one of the only things I know. I'm aware the Broncos defense played pretty well, but like it's a backup quarterback. You know, the only reason why I picked the Broncos this game was legitimately because of their defense. It wasn't because of anything else. But you know, Latavius Murray had a monster game on the ground, 130 yards on 24 carries. Jerry Jeudy was decent, with 76 yards. On the other hand, you know, they didn't have much production from the Cardinals. I mean, James Conner only had 63 yards. DeAndre Hopkins only 60 on 11 targets. I mean, they couldn't really get anything going, and that really sums up the season for the Cardinals. Like, nothing has been going right for them, and the Broncos defense did exactly what it was supposed to do. So,
Yeah, I didn't watch this game. I solely picked the Cardinals because I don't want the Broncos to win whatsoever because we need their draft pick to be top 2. And yeah, other than that, I heard it was a lot of field goals. Ripien had a touchdown. That was about it. So going for the Broncos.
Yeah, well, won't spend too much time on this game. The only way the Broncos won this game is simply because their run game was very, very successful with Latavius Murray going off, and I believe Marlon Mack found his way into the end zone. I didn't even know he was still in the league. And then, of course, you know, Colt McCoy was the last hope for the Arizona Cardinals, but he ended up getting stretchered off. So, I'm just gonna say it's a win for the Broncos, and we're not gonna call it a good win or a bad win at all. So, I know we all didn't watch this game, so the Broncos win 24-15. But we'll move on to an interesting game. The Las Vegas Raiders at home beat the New England Patriots 34-24, but it doesn't tell the full story. They won off a game on a defensive touchdown off a Jacoby Myers fumble, a lateral fumble going backwards.
so before I get to that, I will start off by saying Mac Jones was absolutely horrific against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. I mean, this guy was just terrible. I think he has 7 passing touchdowns through 11 starts. I mean, the guy's just terrible as a quarterback. He's just literally Zach Wilson's big brother. I mention this constantly. He's literally just his big brother, and he's not
He
getting.
might be the little brother. I think he might be the little
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, they might just be twins, in fact. But and of course he didn't get help from his OC Matt Patricia. It feels like every time I see Mac Jones, he's just screaming at the sideline. They had a touchdown called back because of a dumb timeout. There's a lot of things that are going on offensively, but Ramondre Stevenson, absolutely phenomenal game, 172 yards on the ground. This guy was just dominant. Did exactly what he was supposed to do. On the other hand, you had the Raiders, you know, receiving wise, it felt like Derek Carr did a decent enough job of spreading the wealth, but I'm just not a fan of Devontae Adams just not getting the ball in the second half of games enough. Like, it feels like there's this period of time where Devontae goes 4 games getting the ball as much as he's supposed to be. Then the next set of games where he's not getting the ball as much. But, you know, it is good to see Darren Waller back and get a touchdown. And on the ground, Josh Jacobs, he's always going to be busy. But to getting to that play, while I understand that was just a stupid play by Jacoby Myers. I will say that starts off by the play calling. Why are you running the ball? Like, the play is supposed to be designed to, it's supposed to be over. Like, it's supposed to be done. Like, it starts from everybody. So from Mac Jones, from the sideline, whoever's calling the play, to Mac Jones deciding to hand it off, to Ramondre Stevenson not going down. And then, of course, Jacoby Myers just adding insult to injury, throwing it backwards to Jones to get challenge Jones to end up getting it for a touchdown. I feel like Mac Jones didn't even attempt to make a tackle, if I'm being honest. He just looked like a baby. But it starts from everybody. It's not just Jacoby Myers, who of course he's going to be the headlines, but it starts from everybody. I don't know why you're deciding to run a play when it's over. You guys know it's done. Just go into overtime. But I mean, that's a bad loss for the Patriots, who won 5 out of 6 games, man.
Man, like leading up to it, Raiders are about to blow another lead coming in. They're up 20-10 or something like that. The game's coming down. Patriots are marching back. They're getting points on the board, and somehow, some way, they tied up. And at this point, it's like, why even run the ball on that last play? I know you're on your own 45, but at this point, Mac Jones can throw it deep. What's the point of doing a lateral? And then what's the point of Jacoby Myers throwing that ball back to Mac Jones? Like, to me, it miscommunication on all levels, and it has to start off with Bill Belichick. Like, come on now, you're the head honcho. If you don't make that call, look what happens. And everything messed up. Like, you're supposed to need a ball at that possession, go into overtime, hopefully, do what you guys did to tie the game up, and then come back and win it. But horrendous. Ramondre Stevenson had a fantastic game. Mac Jones did not contribute whatsoever. 112 yards, 13 for 31. And offensively for the Raiders, man, they turned it up first half. They didn't get their big, targets involved, but he had 3 touchdowns to Waller, Mac Hollins, Keenan Cole. So 3 guys that they spread the wealth. It was good to see Waller back this week, but to me, man, I feel like Patriots just lost their playoff hopes right there on that play. I feel like it's done for them, donezo. So tough loss for the New England Patriots, and a good one for the Raiders. And Chandler Jones, man, right time, right position, and he had a child right underneath him. So I never expected Mac Jones to make that tackle on Chandler Jones, and that was a freebie. So good one for the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good one for the Las Vegas Raiders, especially with the way the game was going. Bill Belichick and company gifted them a win. But I do gotta say that touchdown pass to Keelan Cole, I believe, that was an absolute dime from Derek Carr. I gotta give him respect on that one. I should have picked this team to win this game. I don't know why. After I did all that ranting, I decided to go with the New England Patriots. But the Patriots did fight, and they had. It was looking like everything was going in their direction, but unfortunately, it just didn't end up being that way with the stupid play call. But overall, the New England Patriots playoff hopes are pretty much shattered at this point. Their next 3 games are against the Cincinnati Bengals at home, the Miami Dolphins at home, and they close out the season on the road against Buffalo. These are all 3. These games are all losses. Let's just keep it. Let's just call it how it is. We all know that Mac Jones and the New England Patriots are not gonna win any of those 2 games at home or go into Buffalo and get a win. This is just not. It's not gonna happen in December. It might have happened in September and October, but when we get to the later half of the season, teams are not gonna give you easy wins, especially with the playoffs right around the corner. So. Out of the teams that are fighting for a playoff spot, I believe they are in worse shape than the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins, simply because of with the way the matchups are the rest of the season is for both those teams. So overall, a good one for the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know what that means for their season. They're sitting at 6-8. I'm sure they need pretty much a miracle in order to make a wild card spot, but it's a good win simply because they have to get back on track after that Thursday night loss to Baker Mayfield to the Van Jefferson touchdown. So a good one for them. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Los Angeles Chargers win a close one against the Tennessee Titans at home, 17-14.
Sorry, my bad. This is a tough game because this was kind of like what we're talking about, where it feels like you check the box score and it's like, yo, Justin Herbert had like 300 yards. Like, he must have had a monster game, but it was tough. Very, very tough in this game. The Titans did a great job defensively. He had 2 turnovers, 2 picks, matter of fact. The rushing game didn't do a whole lot. Of course, he's gonna like spam receptions to guys like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but they're not gonna go for like huge yardage. But I mean, he did what he was supposed to do in that fourth quarter drive. He led down all the way, and for them to get close, and I believe Ryan Tannehill, he got injured as well. And Malik Willis stepped in. So I mean, it feels like things are starting to crumble for the Titans. But Derrick Henry, it seems like he's been on a heater recently. I mean, another monster game, 104 yards and a touchdown. But this Titans team goes where he goes. If he has a bad game, man, like these guys are done. If their entire backs onto this guy, like they need him to show up, or else they're not making it far. And you have the Jaguars trailing right behind them by a game, and if they win, this next game against the Jets, like they're right there with them. So, I mean, it's a good one for the Chargers, who they're starting to pick up wins in this AFC division, but again, you have to have a better performance in this. Justin Herbert, 313 yards and no touchdowns and 2 picks is very, very tough. So,
Yeah, good one for the Chargers. I mean, they marched down that last drive, got the game-winning field goal, and secured the W to make. They're 8-6, man. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we're looking at them sitting at 5 and whatever it was, and we're like, these guys might not make the playoffs, but they got the receivers back. Tannehill did come back into the game. I'd be late, and I think he came back right away, to be honest, but he had an okay game, 165 yards, ran for a touchdown, but he did have a crucial pick. And to speak on Justin Herbert's 2 interceptions, that first interception by the Titans cornerback that made that play where he jumped out of bounds and tipped it right back in, man. That's some Madden stuff right there. That was a beautiful play that he had, saved him from a touchdown. And the other, interception, he got to be more safe. And this guy's throwing the ball 45 times, ending up with 0 touchdowns and 350 yards. It's like, come on. We get it, these 5-yard dump offs here to Eckler, 5-yard dump offs to Keenan, these screen plays, it's whatever. But whenever it comes to big games, man, against big teams, he's gonna have to produce some touchdowns to win some games. So, and then that last drive, man, Mike Williams, 52 of his yards came out of his 67 on that last drive. So he popped up big for Justin Herbert. He made a big 35-yard catch to put him in position to win the game. So shout out to Mike Williams. Good one for the Chargers and Titans, man, 7-7. I can't wait. I want the Jaguars to sneak in, so hopefully they keep on losing.
Yeah, this is a very, very good win for the Los Angeles Chargers, regardless of how Justin Herbert played. Of course, we could all be concerned for his play and stuff like that, but for them to get a win in the month of December is big. The way last December went for them, like we mentioned in our previous episode. So it's a good one for them. And the Tennessee Titans, man, for Derrick Henry Derrick Henry has to be great for them to even have a chance. Like for him to be great, like for him, if he's doing great, it doesn't even guarantee a win. For like some other star players, if they do great, it's a guaranteed win because everybody else is gonna follow. But the Tennessee Titans just couldn't follow Derrick Henry in this one. He did all he could. I knew Derrick Henry was gonna be successful on the ground in this game, but Ryan Tannehill getting banged up and knocked out for a few series, and for him to come back and really not really do much to affect the game. It just sucks, man. Derrick Henry's he's a hell of a talent. He's a talented running back, but when your quarterback can't necessarily throw the ball and get guys the ball in the receiving game, it's going to be hard to win games. So the Chargers Justin Herbert does have to play better. I do hear you guys on that one, but overall, it's still a good win for them. Sitting at 8-6 and only a few more games left in the season, so they're trying to secure a wild card spot in the AFC. So and they're on pace to do so. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Cincinnati Bengals come back after being down 17-0, I believe, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and win on the road 34-23.
man, this one stings. This one stings because first half when you were watching this game, you're thinking, like the Buccaneers, they're back. This is what we were expecting from this team. And then Joe Burrow decides I'm playing against basically an older version of myself and Tom Brady. For that second half completely just demolished this team. For Joe Burrow to have 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, absolutely picked apart this team. Jamar Chase got a touchdown. Tyler Boyd got a touchdown. Mitchell Wilcox got a touchdown. T. Higgins got a touchdown. I mean, this guy just picked up on his wide receivers, and each one of them basically got a touchdown in the second half. It basically the same story for the Buccaneers all season long. This is how their offense looked. Tom Brady had 2 picks. And the rushing game didn't do much. I don't know. The Buccaneers, man, it's been a tough season. It's gonna continue to be that way. The Bengals defense stepped up mightily in the second half to basically put away these guys. And Like it leaves them still in a danger spot in this division where you have the Saints still looming around and the Falcons still like waiting around, like, and they probably end up winning this division, but there's no good signs entering the playoffs. So I mean, good win for the Bengals who've taken the top spot in their division now. So
Great win for the Bengals, man, especially the way they performed the first half compared to the second half. I'm pretty sure it was 17-3 entering the second half. Like they got a field goal, and other than that, it was a very slow day at the office for them in the first half. And I was like, wow, Tampa, their defense is stepping up, the offense is clicking, they're playing great. But second half, 4 turnovers. To me, the offense just collapsed on that side of the ball. They didn't score much after that, to be honest. And the Bengals turned it up. Burrow started hitting his targets. He was finding guys like Michael Wilcox that I never heard of. Tyler Boyd came back and scored. T. Higgins had one. Pretty sure Chase had a good game, if I'm not too correct.
He
Chase had a
did
touchdown.
90 yards and a touchdown.
So his 3 main targets, they had a good day. He came back and played well. First half was embarrassing, nasty. The offense was clicking. He threw an interception, I think, the first drive. But to come back down 14 points, something like that, without the offense moving the first half was good. So the defense showed up. 10-4 sitting at number 1 in their division right now, so it's looking good for them. Good win by Cincy, and Tampa is just embarrassing collapse. So they're still in a tight race in their division, but to me, man, I just don't even want to make the playoffs no more. Even if they make it, it's gonna be nasty. Like every game they play is horrible. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. When I saw that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were up 17-0, in the back of my head, I was like, bro, there's just no way they're gonna win this game. The Bengals eventually they're gonna go into halftime, they're gonna make their adjustments, and they're gonna come right back out and win this game. Whether or not it was gonna end up being a close one or a blowout, it ended up being pretty much a blowout up until that garbage time touchdown by Russell Gage, I believe. The Bengals did what they're supposed to do in the second half. The first half it was just a bad showing for them. Pretty similar to what the Minnesota Vikings put on display. Just wasn't who they just didn't show who they are as a team. They struggled to put drives together and put points up on the board. They did get a field goal at the end of the second quarter, but no touchdown. But in the second half, they were able to. It was like pretty much score on every damn drive, because of how many turnovers the Buccaneers were gifting them. I believe they had 4 turnovers in that third quarter alone, on back to back drives, which helped the Cincinnati Bengals a lot. But man, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, bro, this team. They're going to end up making the playoffs just because of their sorry division that they're in. But this team is going to be first round exit. There's not much I can say about this team. Tom Brady will probably not be the starting quarterback on this team moving forward after this year. It was a good time while it lasted, but it's ending very, very bad for them. But overall, good win for the Cincinnati Bengals. They needed this one simply because they needed to be back up in the AFC, and in their division as well. They sit at number 1, knowing the Baltimore Ravens are right behind them, and they're getting Lamar Jackson back this week, potentially. So it's a good win. The Bengals do have some interesting matchups moving for the rest of the season. They have the New England Patriots, the Buffalo Bills, and the Baltimore Ravens, and of course we're probably talking about looking forward to those last 2 games where they played Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So good win for them. We'll go ahead and move on to our Sunday night football matchup. The Giants were able to sneak away a win on the road against the Washington Commanders, 20-12.
man, this is like why I had the Kayvon Thibodeaux. What an absolute monster game from him. The Giants, they drafted him for a reason, and like he showed it tonight. I mean, showed it yesterday in that game. I mean, he was like everywhere. I think I said this Sunday game. Sorry, yeah, he was all over the field against these guys. I believe he had the fumble for the touchdown. He had a couple sacks. Like this guy was all over the field. And then Saquon Barkley, like he didn't have a huge game that we're expecting, but he still had a very, very good game. 87 yards on the ground. And Daniel Jones, like he went back to protecting the ball, doing exactly what they needed him to do. On the other side, you had the Commanders, who, Taylor Heineke, he had 240 yards and a touchdown, and Brian Robinson had 89 yards on the ground, and Jahan Dotson, we haven't heard his name in a while, but he had a touchdown, but it wasn't enough against this Giants defense, who did a great job against this Commanders offense. And we had a couple weeks ago where they drew, and all of a sudden now this game the Giants come in and they win. Because if I had a feeling, man, I went with the Giants because I felt like this team realized that they were on a skid, and Daniel Jones finally beats the primetime curse. Feels like every time when he's on primetime he loses, so it is a good one for the Giants, who like they're trying to secure that playoff spot. So it's a good one for them.
Good one for the Giants, but to me, there were some questionable calls towards, late in the game, towards like the last couple plays where, to me, I don't know, man. The rest was looking iffy to me. They missed a couple calls, but other than that, man, Giants really relied on that defense, forcing 2 fumbles on the Taylor Heineke, one return for a touchdown, another one that was in their own end zone. I think it was on the 4-yard line. They reviewed the call and it was another fumble that saved them from Washington scoring the option. And to me, I feel like the Commanders started off a little late on the offensive side of the ball. They were very, very slow that first half, and in the second half they started to let it loose and it kind of opened up the game. But opportunity is there for them, a lot of opportunities, but they didn't come up with it, and they took the big loss. So good one for the Giants. The defense played phenomenal. Saquon looked good. Finally, after a couple of weeks, he showed up, and Aaron Jones had an okay game.
Yeah, this is a good one for the Giants. I got to give him credit here. I thought that Daniel Jones wasn't going to be enough. Saquon Barkley wasn't going to be enough for them to win this game, and I did predict that he was going to have a big game in the second outing against the Washington Commanders, and he did. He extended that last drive that pretty much iced the game for them. He was making big plays, and the Washington Commanders, yeah, they a couple calls could have went their way. The one that raised my eyebrow was the Scary Terry illegal formation play where he looked at the ref and the ref gave him a thumbs up, and he was pretty much good. And the next thing you know, a flag's being thrown and they're getting pushed back 5 yards, I believe. And on that particular play, Brian Robinson was able to score a touchdown. That would have at least given them a chance to go for 2 and tie the game. But unfortunately, legal formation on Scary Terry costed them that win. And of course, we could talk about the pass interference and whether or not it was. But the Giants defense stepped up. They got Kayvon Thibodeau had himself one hell of a game, getting a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And the Giants needed this one, man. After a couple of bad weeks and a couple of bad losses, right now they're right there for in the playoffs for a wild card spot, sitting at number 6. And if you're the Washington Commanders, yeah, you lost this game, but are you still out of the playoff race? Not necessarily. You do got a tough couple of matchups for the rest of the season where you have to see the San Francisco 49ers this upcoming week, the Cleveland Browns at home, and then the Dallas Cowboys at home. You just have to pretty much hope and pray that the Seattle Seahawks keep losing right there with you, or if you somehow get a win against one of these good teams and you're able to keep that 7th spot. And also you have to worry about the Detroit Lions, who are creeping right back up. Their schedule isn't necessarily too hard. Carolina, Chicago, Green Bay, those could all be 3 wins for the Detroit Lions, and they could finish with a record of 10-7 and take that last spot. So the Washington Commanders, I'll go ahead and say it's a bad loss for them, but the Giants, good win for them. So we'll go ahead and move on to the last game of Week 15 of the NFL season. The Green Bay Packers win at home against the Baker Mayfield-led Los Angeles Rams, 24-12.
I mean, coming to this game, I had no doubt the Packers are going to win this. I mean, they're going up against an inferior opponent who has underperformed all season long. And, they started off the game pretty well with a nice drive, but that got stifled and led to just a field goal. And then when we got the ball back again, Aaron Rodgers' miscommunication with Alan Lazard. It was more so on Aaron Rodgers' fault, where Lazard was pretty smart. He decided he's going to stay inside that zone and find the soft spot, and then Aaron Rodgers kind of overthrew him on that. But other than that, like, the Packers just decided, we're just going to run the ball on these guys and just dominate the ground. A.J. Dillon, before he got the concussion, he had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Aaron Jones, of course, when you give him the ball, that guy's one of the most explosive backs in the NFL, and he did his job as well. So, it's not a hugely impressive game from the quarterback situation from the Packers, but overall, we did a good enough job defensively and on the ground to keep them in check. So, good win.
Yeah, going for the Packers. I expected them to come in and win the game. That's what they did. I think Aaron Rodgers didn't really do much, 230 yards, a touchdown, and interception. But the run game with A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon on the end zone, just punching it in twice. And Aaron Jones, whenever he touches the ball, you give him his carries, he's going to turn up, So the defense, to me, played good. Baker Shitfield had 111 yards. We knew he was going to come back down to earth and not do anything much. And that's what I expected. So going for the Packers, they got a chance to make the playoffs, but a lot of things got to go their way. They need a lot of teams to lose. They need about 3 or 4 teams to take some L's, and I don't think that's possible. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, I don't have necessarily anything good to say about this game. It was, I mean, I guess it was nice to see AJ Dillon be useful inside the 5 in the red zone and get a couple of touchdowns, and Aaron Jones was very, very good on the ground as well. But like I said in our last episode, I was going to do some homework on how how the Green Bay Packers can make the playoffs, and they pretty much have to win out, and then plus the Giants, they need the Giants to lose their next 3 games, or they need to win out, and the Washington Commanders need to lose 2 out of their 3 games, plus Seattle losing 1 out of their next 3 games. So, their
I
playoff.
think it's like an 8%. It's like an 8% chance now, or something,
Yeah.
or 10%, something like that.
They
It's
got the
not-
Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Lions as their last 3 games.
Okay, why are you talking like your last 3 games are easier? Some shit too.
I mean, the Jets and the Rams are better than we got a better chance against them than you guys got a chance against.
I mean, the
Vikings.
Jets are no joke though. Like you remember you was talking about the Panthers are a
Defensively,
bye.
they're no joke. Defensively, they're no joke, man. But we'll see what happens with Zach Wilson. I feel like he's going to gift us his game, so I like our chances against him.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers playoff hopes is pretty much it's been pretty much
I'm not gonna
over
lie to you.
for the entire
The
season.
Lions, I feel like the Lions got the best chance to make it. I really
Out
believe
of
they
the,
got
out
the
of
best
the,
chance.
out of the last 3 teams between you, them, and the Washington Commanders, yeah, I mean, their schedule
got
is
the-
definitely in their favor. The schedule's in their favor for sure. But the Green Bay Packers need pretty much a Hail Mary in order to make the playoffs. And I believe their playoff hopes will be shattered this week when they see the Miami Dolphins, who are coming off 3 straight losses now, and they're going to be pretty fired up to get back in the win column. And Tyreek Hill said it. He said, he apologized for not doing good against the Bills, and he was going to be better moving forward. And I feel like he's due for one of these big games. He's been pretty much quiet these last couple of weeks, outside of that San Francisco 49ers game where he had that big touchdown, but not necessarily a Tyreek Hill we know, but I don't want to talk too much about that next upcoming game, but to talk about this game, the Packers did what they're supposed to do, and they came out and got a win against a team that was led by Baker Mayfield, who, he had his heroics on Thursday night against the Raiders, but he came, like Big A said, came right back down to earth. So overall, good win for Green Bay. What does that mean for them for the rest of the season? I don't think it means much, but I guess we're just going to sit here and call it a good win. But that pretty much wraps up week 15 of the NFL season. Let's go ahead and get into our predictions and our records. Abdi did lead the way this week at 13-3. I was right behind him at 12-4, and Big H was right behind me at 11-5, which leads us to our totals. I'm still in first place at 136 wins, 89 losses, and 2 ties. Abdi is right behind me, though. He closed the gap by 135, 87 and 2. And then Big H kind of slipped up a little bit this week, sitting at 129, 93 and 2. We got 3 weeks left, fellas, and somebody's going to be crowned a champion at the end of the season. I think it's going to be me. I got a good feeling.
Man, the Commanders pick, it did me nice. And the Raiders one as well. It was that Falcons one that messed me up, man.
Yeah, I think what really helped you a lot was the Washington Commanders, because me and Big H both picked them, and you took the Giants, but
You both picked the Patriots too, y'all. Don't forget.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all good. We have 3 weeks left in the NFL season. We have a lot of interesting matchups moving forward. A lot of playoff implications are on the line for a lot of these teams, and of course, we're going to be right here to talk about it all. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and close things out here. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. We really appreciate your love and support. We'd greatly appreciate it if you like, commented, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at New Media Podcast. For those of you that are watching us on YouTube, all of our social media handles will be in the beginning of this video. And if you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, if you go to our Instagram page at New Media Podcast, you'll be able to navigate yourself to all of our social media handles there. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lake, now that's overkill.